Maureen, a point also made by Micheál Martin was that there was knowledge about the McGahan case as far back as 2002, and it had to be known to people in the Republican movement. How difficult is this proving for Sinn Féin?
I think it is difficult, and I was struck by something Deputy MacDonald said about speaking to many victims. Now, if she and others spoke to many victims, they also have information on the perpetrators. And my point is, while it's very brave of victims to come forward and tell their story, because that's part of recovery, it can't just be telling a story, it has to go further. And part of recovery is when the perpetrator is brought to justice. And in my view, there are a lot of perpetrators who have not been brought to justice. And the onus is on anybody who knows to bring forward that information. Commission of Inquiry, where is it going to go? Unless it's going to lead to justice, not just stories being told.
And Jan O'Sullivan made the point that, well, there might be merit in a commission of inquiry, but she said to Mary Lou, the issue is now. What information is available right now to members of the Republican movement or members of Sinn Féin in terms of people who they know allegations have been made against as being perpetrators of sex abuse? How do you think Mary Lou handled that?
Mary Lou's a very clever performer, as I know, constituency colleague, and she handled it in her own inimitable way. We didn't get very much information from it. And I think the onus now is to take it further and say, right, you have information, there was an investigation, there were kangaroo courts, what exactly was involved in them, what were they dealing with, and who sat on them, and who got away with what. The
point that David made a moment earlier, that she appeared to be as though she was trying to walk a very, very fine line between holding the line for the party but not trying to overstep it because of the whole past of the party and the involvement of the IRA and this whole issue of kangaroo courts and the people who may have been involved in them.
There are massive issues over our history, and I think a lot is going to be coming to a head because we have the 100th commemoration of the 1916 Rising, and I don't think we've had an adult enough conversation about the past, what happened in the past. I mean, you think of the Dublin Monaghan bombings, 40 years later, people are still waiting for answers, and other injustices that have happened, other troubles, people are still waiting for answers. And I think we have to be adult enough and mature enough to say, okay, terrible things happened. Let's bring them out into the open and let's be mature about it, not make a political game of it or grandstanding about it. I'm more struck by the abuse case that I brought up last week when I had leaders' questions in the Dáil, which was a long-standing issue in swimming circles in Ireland of somebody who has never been brought to justice and whose passage from this country was facilitated. And I made the point last week that as people are incensed, and rightly so, at abusers in one jurisdiction moving to another, our country facilitated this man moving to another country, another jurisdiction too, in fact, where he was working with young people on occasion. And there are freedom of information requests in the American system at the moment. There are some American politicians following up on that to see how he managed to get his green card and visa into America. The one thing is, people who are abused, there are times when they're able to come forward. There are times when they're not able to come forward. And I'm hoping from this other case that people who are listening to all of this, that they might be in a better space in their lives now, that they could come forward. Because those who came forward then over this particular man, and the police did their job, but the case never went any further. And it's just horrific to think a man with between 17 and 27 charges against him on abuse could just leave this country and continue in another country.